So, the last show of 2017. Here we go. Here we go indeed. Good evening and welcome to the Way of Mindful Consciousness, a weekly podcast and YouTube show that discusses spirituality and science, balancing with mind, body and spirit, with a Daoist twist. The Tao means the way, the path. Now, surprise, surprise, we are not the normal talk show. Each week we either have a subject or, as we do this week, a wonderful guest. And our aim is to have an open discussion to help us find new skills, new techniques, new ways for our own personal Tao. As always, we have on the show co-hosts like myself, and this week is no different. Now, we have, for the last show of this year, we have an old friend, a student, and he's back. Yes, it is the questioner, aka Chris Cluster. Good evening, Chris. How are you doing, sir?
Good evening. I've broken the internet already today, so we're good.
Okay, that's all good then. Nothing else is going to go wrong. That's awesome. So, and then as well as this very quiet and very reserved person that is the questioner, we go to somebody totally opposite. We go to the wonderful, the awesome, the brother from another mother. It is Robino Mackenzie. Hey!
Hey!
Good evening.
Nice to see you. Welcome. Good evening. How you doing?
How you doing, my friend?
Doing fantastic. Merry Christmas.
Oh yes,
And
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year when it comes to everybody. Fantastic. All blessings of the Christmas season. Happy holidays. Happy whatever it is you celebrate yourself. Happy Yuletide.
Happy Yuletide. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever it is.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy death of the sun, rising of the sun once again, 3 days later. However you want to take this period of time, but happy holidays.
Whatever it is, as long as it's happy, that's all that matters. So indeed. Okay. So well, that's the co-host out of the way, unless anybody else pops up for now. So we have the star of the show. It is the Way of I've forgotten her surname already. Louise Keoghan.
Keoghan.
Keoghan. I remember it.
Louise is fine.
I remember it by the end. That's the problem. But so Louise is on the show, and her journey is an interesting one, and we'll get to that. So, good evening, Louise. How are you doing?
I'm well, and thank you for inviting me on your show. I'm very excited to be here and chat.
It's great to have you on the show. Great indeed. So I will ask, as always, the first question, the ultimate question. And that is quite simply, so this is the way of Louise Keoghan. So Louise, what is your way? What is your Tao?
My path follows the KISS principle. Keep it simple, sister. I see my path as one of bringing joy into people's lives. I'm very passionate about earth healing and creating earth grids, and to nourish people and to support them on their spiritual path.
Wow, cool.
And be the best light worker, love worker that I can, to be of service to Source.
And that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. So how did you start on this journey?
I started the journey even before I realised I was on the journey, and it goes back to about 2013. And I'd seen advertised on the internet, Indian head massage course, and I thought I'd really like to do this course. So I did. And I turned up for so you have to do an assessment, a written assessment prior to the day, and also a practical exam. So I turned up, and I thought I was going there to do an Indian head massage, and I was going there for something way beyond that. And I remember going there, meeting the examiner, went to her room, and I saw these crystals over the floor, and I couldn't help myself. I looked at them and I thought, I've got to ask, why have you got crystals on the floor? And she said to me, Hannah Murray, really lovely, sorry, Hanny Murphy, lovely lady, she said to me, it's for protection. And that didn't make any sense to me, to be honest with you. So I had a look round, and I could see some really nice people that were there to do the exam alongside myself. So I said, protection from what? And she said, protection from negative forces. And again, that was new to me, didn't really understand quite what she was getting at. So I had to go back and ask again and say, well, I don't understand what you mean, what kind of negative entities? And then she went up to explain very briefly how that when you work with angels and beings of the light, you need to protect yourself as well. And I just had so many more questions that I wanted to ask her, but I was very conscious of the fact that I was the one asking all the questions and all these other people just sitting there listening. And one of the experiences I learned was a woman there, she did angel Reiki, and I'd done Reiki myself, but I hadn't really worked with angels. And she was saying, oh, I work with these angels and they do this and they do that. And I was just totally enthralled. And I went away, passed the exam, but I went away, and in the few hours I was away doing the exam, it opened up a whole new world for me. And that's where I really began. Initially, I'd say that's laying the foundations of where I really began to start thinking about spirituality, except at that time, I didn't really consider it to be spirituality. I just thought, oh, I need to know about crystals. I need to know more about angels. And I've always believed in angels. Well, at least I believe that there were at least 4 up until that point in time. I knew of Michael, Gabriel, Oriel, and Raphael, and I didn't really know what they were doing. I knew that they played a previously very important roles, but I hadn't really heard many people saying at the time, oh yes, I'm working with Archangel Michael, I'm working with Archangel Gabriel, and so forth, until I actually went to that Indian head massage course, and these people were saying they worked as part of their career with angels, and I was just completely blown away by that experience. And that's really the foundations of me going back and then trying to find out about, well, what is angel Reiki, and what do you do with these crystals in your healing work? And really that was the very, very beginning, I would say, of phase 1. Phase 2 was a short while afterwards. What had happened was I had a career for over 20 years as a teacher trainer. And I decided I was going to leave that and embark on a new career under project management. And I trained to be a Prince 2 practitioner. And I really struggled to find work. And I think the reason why I struggled is because I was doing a job that really didn't resonate with my soul at all. I was doing it for completely the wrong reasons. So I struggled to find work, and eventually I did. And I got work in IT, and it just wasn't suitable for me at all. I was working really long hours. I was leaving home at 7 o'clock in the morning, getting home 7 o'clock at night, doing children's homework, and I'm going to bed. And it was a really, really stressful life. Not only that, I put on loads of weight because I wasn't doing any exercise. I was basically sitting down all day, every day, where prior to that, I'd been running at least 3, possibly 4 times a week and was reasonably fit. But sitting down, driving, sitting down, doing Excel spreadsheets, sitting down in the car. So after 9 months, I wasn't satisfied, I'll be honest with you, and I left. And what had happened was I built up a good reputation within the company and the customer, and they said, oh, we really want to keep you, but what we're going to do, we can see you've got potential, we're going to promote you, but not only that, we're going to let you work from home, and you can do project management this and project management that and so forth. And so they said, but we need you to have a space for a month, have a month holiday. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant, because I really, really needed a break. I didn't really feel as if I was being a proper mum to my children. As a single parent, I was very conscious of the fact that they needed more time with me. So this month was great. And this leads into answering your question about path and phase 2, that during that time, I was able to spend more time, not just with my children, but my parents, who also live quite close by. And I was starting to notice things, particularly about my dad, that I'd not noticed before, in terms of his health. And because I've been popping in to see them after work, hello, how are you? I'm busy, I've got to go now and do other things. I hadn't I'd overlooked the fact that my dad's health was starting to deteriorate. And I just wasn't paying attention. But because I had time, I was able to do that. And also at that point, I was led to believe that I was going to be working from home and I could have flexible hours. So I was quite happy to go and spend more time with my dad, because when this job came about, I could then, you know, work flexi hours around the job. But anyway, what happened is that I started to get more involved with my dad and my dad's health. And initially, it was helping him sort out a hearing aid. But not only that, my dad was actually very poorly, and I didn't realise he was as poorly as what he was. So I then started to take Dad to the hospital for all his appointments, and Dad was diagnosed with cancer. So really, going back to the phase 2 of my spiritual journey really began when I realised that my dad was very, very poorly. The job didn't transpire. I didn't hear anything from this big dream I was promised. And basically, before I knew it, I was with my dad almost all the time, as much as I could be, and we were at the hospital between 3 and 4 times a week, sorting out hearing aid problems, and then sorting out all the chemo diagnosis and the treatment and so forth. And that's really when my spirituality progressed. I just remember one time, I can still even remember it now, going to the hospital, and it was full of really, really, really sick people. And I remember thinking, there's got to be some higher purpose to my life here, and what can I do to help these people lead happier, healthier lives? I mean, I wasn't suggesting for a minute I was all of a sudden going to change career and become a doctor, but I was thinking more along the terms of what I could do as a person to help make our planet a healthier place so that people could lead happier, healthier lives. And that was really the phase 2, where I started to read more books on my Kindle. And I felt that I needed to start going inwards to get these answers to what I was starting to seek more and more questions about. In fact, I had a really quite interesting experience. I've mentioned to you crystals before, and I have the crystal here, actually. It's a Merlinite one to show you. And I bought this back in about 2013, 2014. And I thought at that time, just having this crystal alone would connect me to Merlin. And so when I tried to connect with him, I had this message, this inner message saying to me that, no, you're not in the right place to work with the Merlin energy right now. And that really led me to go on and do some really, really deep inner questioning about myself and looking at my life in a very different way. And to be told that your vibration at that point in time wasn't high enough to be then able to work with Merlin really did deeply affect me. I thought there's obviously very good reasons to be told that you're not at the right place to be able to work with Master Merlin. And I really did go on a deep journey of understanding myself and looking at my life and issues that I had with myself and issues with other people, and to really kind of go and heal within, to let go and to forgive myself, to forgive other people, and just acknowledge it's happened, situations had happened, and to send healing and to replace any anger, any negativity with love. And that took a long time to be able to do that. And I feel that with my dad's illness, that played a major part as well in terms of getting me to actually look at these areas in my life that clearly I wasn't happy with, to acknowledge them face on and to deal with them. But it has a happy ending in the sense that this year I became initiated into the Order of Merlin. So it did have a nice ending, but I think it was also a reminder to me that you have to put in the hours, you have to put in the time to clear yourself out first before you can ever think about wanting to help heal anyone else. And that was difficult for me because I really did have a lot more inner cleansing to do than I ever realized. And it was the more I actually sat down in meditation and I looked at myself and started to journal things about what I wasn't happy with about myself and my life and anger and where I needed to heal. So really it all stemmed from Master Merlin in many respects, and was coupled with caring for Dad. In fact, I have and I saw earlier on you have dragons, don't you? This dragon is attuned to I'm trying to find the camera angle for you now, the energy of Merlin. And I was able to become a guardian of that this year as well. So I think it goes to show you that, you know, whatever your starting point is, that's your starting point. It's not necessarily an indication of where you can or you can't go. So thank you, Master Merlin, for being a major part in that process. I'm very grateful to him, because without being told no, I wouldn't have thought that I needed to do the work I did.
Indeed, yeah. It's funny in the directions you are guided or sent. Yes, dragons are a big part of my existence, my life. There are two main things I've sort of, in the Chinese stuff, I've been sort of trained up as a barefoot doctor. Which a barefoot doctor, their ultimate skill is to actually teach others to help themselves. So they have lots of skills that they can, you know, diagnose you and help you, you know, with Chinese massage and 5-element cooking and whatnot. But their ultimate aim is actually to teach you to help your others. Now, the other one is dragon dog shaman. Shaman, as in the dragon dogs of China. The dragon dogs are very much guardians of the flower of life. So the ball under their foot is flower life. So yeah, that's a little bit of my connection, especially with dragon energy. And I do lots of dragon qigong and dragon and kung fu, and it's funny. It's all through my life, Merlin's always. When I've ever had readings, again, similar to, I've always had readings of Merlin coming up, and there's always the Merlin energy around me. I'm not a medium of sorts or as such. I don't or a channel as such. I don't connect with them in that way as such, but I definitely work with dragon energy. I definitely work with the elemental energy, Chinese elemental energy, and yeah, so it's very interesting. So
I have another dragon to show you. This is Ampantur, Himalayan quartz.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool. All right, so just 1 second. I'll stick you on main screen because I'm talking. That is cool.
And you use these in your healing, or?
Yes, I do. Yes. Yeah, what they like to do, particularly some of the larger sized dragons that I have, is they like to be in grids. So I will make special grids, light candles around the main. Ampantur is one of my main healing dragons, and I will have incense and candles around the dragons. They seem to like working in certain combinations. Ampantur likes to work with 2 other dragons, but that's not the case for all of them. It depends, and also it depends on what I'm doing as well. If I'm doing something like earth healing, I would have as many dragons in a grid as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's very much fun. Yeah, it's working because the whole thing of the dragons is just like in American Indians with the different animals or spirit guides. You know, dragons are spirit guides, and it's, unfortunately, Marilyn's not here, but she knows very much about Kuna, which is from Hawaii. They heavily work with dragons as well. There's a strong dragon energy, and the Chinese philosophy of dragon is dragon. The other side, dragon represents heaven. So this is why the dragons in China tend not to have wings, because they are heavenly dragons, and they float through chi as if it was solid, as if it was water. So yes, it's very, very, very cool. So is that the main bulk? So you work with Merlin energy, and you work with dragons.
And I've just started to work with the unicorn energy. This is a unicorn called Divine Star, and I thought, what a beautiful name to have, especially at this time of the year.
Indeed,
Definitely.
indeed.
Really nice energy from her. And this is Iana, another this is Himalayan as well.
Cool.
They're like very loving energy. They're very good if you need to learn to love yourself, and obviously to show love to other people as well. And very high vibrational beings that I started to work with this year. I understand that they were around during the times of Lemuria and Atlantis. And because the vibration was so low that they had to withdraw their energy. But now, as more people are on their path and starting to ascend, it's becoming quite common now for people to see unicorns as not being like, Disney characters from a film, but to be very, special beings of helping us on our ascension.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, especially in the older cultures, like China, especially Tibet, they see these entities as just being in other dimensions or realms. And as you say, when the energy becomes higher, they can then, like, come through. And it's only where the energy's been so dense over the last few thousand years that they haven't come through as they used to. But like the pagan stories, me and Chris have got friends who do a band called Spriggan Mist, and Spriggan is basically like a bouncer fairy, and the whole idea for me is especially especially in certain parts in China, especially the Wudang, I saw things that I would say were fairies, were definitely entities that were, they would definitely, they appeared there, they were making stuff move, they definitely appeared there. And how it's talked about in China is that, especially with, the density, if it's too dense, then these things can't come through, or the higher the beings, the lighter beings, the darker beings tend to be able to come through easier. So, demons and scary ghosts can come through in more denser areas, but as the vibrations get higher, they can't come through, but then other higher beings can.
I've started to work with the elementals this year, and one of the messages I've been getting is that really you have to prove that you can be trusted, because humans, we've let the elemental realm down for so long, and I felt that they've been keeping an eye on me. One of the things especially I feel as if that they were really guiding me towards was to recycle more. I've always been into recycling, but to recycle more and more and more and more than I've ever done before, and to think very ethically, which I know is easier said than done sometimes, particularly with plastics, and some of the food that we need to buy is plastics, but to think very responsibly about the packaging involved when I'm buying things, and to recycle that as productively as I possibly can. And I'll go through all the bins at home and check and double check to see what can be recycled. So I feel as if, I'm starting to earn their trust, and I've started to leave out honey, and sometimes I leave out my crystals, like for the winter solstice, I left out some crystals and some offerings for them. And I think they very much appreciate that. Because of course they can shapeshift, can't they? They can come in and out of your house, and they see how often you feed the birds. And even when it's snowing outside and there's no bird food, what are you going to do? You're going to sit and let the birds go hungry because you fed them up until this point, and now they're relying on you. What are you going to do? So I feel as if that they will be beings that I will work with more so next year as well. I've started to with some of the queens, like Queen Maeve, this year, but I feel as if that will probably develop more. Well, I'm sending it out, the request to the universe, that if they can see I'm trusted, then they will want to work with me more next year. And I'd be really excited to learn from them, because they're great manifestors as well, aren't they?
Yeah, indeed they are. Yeah. Chris, have you got any questions?
I was just curious. Maybe I missed it earlier, but why was it that you were interested in working with the energy of Merlin in particular?
It was because when I went to the Indian head massage exam and I saw crystals, I started to get books on crystals. And one of the crystal types that attracted me was merlinite. And I read up what was merlinite, and it said, merlinite is one of the crystals used if you want to work with the energy of Merlin. So I thought, that's what prompted me to, and I have to say, I just assumed that it would be perfectly okay for me to do that. Oh yeah, Merlin's going to come along, and Merlin's going to come along and say, yeah, that's great, and is going to start working with me. But no, wasn't the case. But my connection now, in fact, with going back to Merlin, I'm initiated into the order and am currently studying vortex healing, which is a really nice way to be able to send out healing. In fact, Merlin again, isn't this interesting? Merlin again. This is grey agate. Can you see?
Yeah.
Yet another one. I think Merlin must have known that at some point that he was going to crop up in conversation. I'm sure it was guided, because I have various other crystals here as well to show you with angels as well. But yes, I was initiated into the order by Aurengus Kenshington this year, and have started to give myself vortex healing, and I've got some friends as well, and there's a group of us, and we sometimes will come together and send vortex healing. So if there's a disaster somewhere, rather than go into like the vibration of fear, to go into the vibration of love and to send healing and support. And sometimes we've got areas that we feel passionate about. Like one of my areas with the Dragon Realm is to work with Atlantis and the Atlantic Ocean, and to heal that particular area. So that's what I love about Merlin, is that it's so contemporary. You could see something on television and yet you're able to contribute in a positive way, even though other people might be dealing with it in a very sad way and a very angry way, because that's how their emotions are responding to what they've seen.
Indeed, yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's all about channeling positivity in whatever way you see it best.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was also going to add about how I got my connection with Robbie McKenzie, because Robbie McKenzie, how I first got in touch with him, he was the first, when I went onto Facebook, and I'll tell you about how I had to change my Facebook profile in just a moment. But when I first went on Facebook, I went on as an alias. And the reason why I went on as an alias called Louise Lavelle is because I didn't really know what direction my spiritual path was going to take me. I didn't even know how many people out there would actually resonate with anything that I was saying. So what I did is I created this image of myself. My profile picture was actually a tower at the time. And Robbie McKenzie was the first person who contacted, even though we didn't know that much about each other at that time, but he was the first person to contact on my post, which I thought was really interesting. And then how I got to know more Robbie McKenzie, particularly last year, was I worked my way through his books that were channeled by Archangel Metatron. And the fourth book was the Galactic Council 2. And that's really where I became friends with Robbie McKenzie, because I used to message him pretty much almost every day. And not long afterwards, I got to know his twin flame, Angelina, as well. But what I would do is I would talk through to him my experience of what it was like doing the 21-day fast, because at times it was very, very challenging, because there was a point where you weren't eating anything and drinking anything. You were just like surrendering to the divine and trusting that the divine would give you the food that you needed, the divine food or the divine fire that you would need in able to gain sustenance. But what was interesting, you know, you're asking about who I worked with and how I came to work with them. At the end of the fast, I sent Robbie McKenzie a card reading, and I said I was asking the masters for feedback on, you know, how I got on, and I didn't manage to do everything. I think if I was the mark I was kind of given was like an 8.5 out of 10 in terms of achievability of all the things that you were supposed to do and potentially achieve, but I didn't achieve them all. You know, for example, I wasn't able to levitate, which people more advanced would be able to do that. But what was quite interesting is at the end of it, I did a card reading. I did master's card reading and asking for guidance and support on what I should do next. And the card that came up was actually Melchizedek. And I learnt at that point that I was part of his order as well. And my role was to offer my services as an earth healer. And I've started to work a little bit more with Melchizedek this year, but I feel he will be somebody that I will work more alongside with next year. Because I work with Melchizedek, I've been in a couple of meditations with Melchizedek and the Dragon Realm, actually. But I think that will be an area for development next year. I'm hoping it will be. I like to keep myself busy. Always have goals in mind, what I could be doing next.
So it sounds like you've got like a toolbox of tools that you just sort of, somebody will come along and say that, you know, such and such is bothering them, or they have a problem, and then what you would get with the right tool for the right job, would you?
Yeah, mainly it's crystals would be my tool, but not always. Sometimes I'll go meditation and I'll get other insights, you know, perhaps maybe to do some card readings, or just perhaps some intuitive comment. One of the things I like to do, I don't know whether either of you do this, is that when I'm given advice, and I feel it's really important advice, what I like to do is I always ask, you know, can you verify? Oh, we've just been talking about you, Robbie. Just talking about your books and how I got to know you. And
my ears were burning, so that's how I knew.
Yeah, you see, I had to come back, and oh yeah, we were just, I was just saying the incredible way that we met and how you commented on my Facebook tower and so forth.
Yeah, everything happens
and Angelina.
Synchronicities, yeah. Yeah, synchronicities, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
You did the books, you did everything, yeah. You did the whole 21-day cleanse, and you were going through a big transition at that point as well. You know, it was very powerful, very powerful.
In fact, you remember I finished the fast just before the first anniversary of my dad's transition.
Yeah.
And again, I hadn't done the maths. I hadn't done the maths at the time, thinking, oh, I'll count back, and then on this day it'll be the day before, you know, my dad's, you know, first anniversary. It just all kind of like fell into place. And the point that we were ending just prior to you joining us was I was saying I did a card reading, which I showed you a photograph of, actually. And I learned that I was part of Melchizedek's order.
And
Melchizedek's card came up from my guidance as to what to do next and who to be working with at some point in the future. So strong message was to do earth healing. That was one of my responsibilities within his order. Other people were there to do different things. So
exactly, yeah. Exciting stuff, and that's part of your plans, yeah. That's part of your projected reality moving forward, yeah. With your healing centre in Wales, yeah.
Yes, that's one of the, we haven't discussed that yet, but that was one of the things, and I haven't also spoken about. It's good that you're here because you can contribute as well, because you know this is true about Mother Sekhmet. I've mentioned, you know, about the alias I had as Louisa Lavelle, and I loved that because in a way I didn't have to take full responsibility for everything I was saying and doing on Facebook, because no one knew who I was. They didn't see my face. It wasn't even my real name. I didn't have any of my family as friends. So what happened was, as you will attest, won't you, Robbie, that in September I started to, what happened was, you know, I mentioned teaching, and I came out of teaching because I found the energies really, really harsh. And what happened is that I had a very good reputation in terms of doing supply teaching, but what that in turn meant is I went to a lot of classes where there were very difficult students and really challenging situations to deal with. And I found that I was kind of absorbing the energies that I was experiencing in the classroom, and I was finding it really difficult to manage going in every day without absorbing the negative energies in the schools. I realised I'd actually become more sensitive to energies, and I never realised. It was only when I was in that situation I began to realise, no, I can't keep doing this. So to go back to Mother Sekhmet, in September, I decided I really didn't want to go back to supply teaching, and work was in fact, I didn't get a phone call for 3 weeks because I was only going to be phoned up if a member of staff was sick. So I remember at that time I was starting to work with Mother Sekhmet, and I discovered Mother Sekhmet. My relationship developed with her more by reading Nikki Scully's book about Sekhmet. In fact, my mug here, and a special mug for Mother Sekhmet. She's an Egyptian mother. Interesting how people have different interpretations of her. Sometimes she's seen as being this kind of very destructive and into war and bloodshed. But my experience is, if you want to work with Mother Sekhmet, it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, by the way, Mother Sekhmet will work with anyone who is committed. And from my experience, she was a bit like a spiritual life coach. She comes in, like, you know, we talked about mirrors earlier on. It's like as if she puts a mirror to your face and says, look, are you willing to be your authentic self? And she said very, very loving to me. She's very assertive, and she's a fantastic healer as well. She said to me that I wasn't being my authentic self. And I said, aren't I? And she said, you can't want to do healing work and have people take you seriously if you're going to use an alias. People won't know who you are, and if they don't know who you are, they're not going to trust you. And if they don't trust you, they're not going to want your services. So what she suggested I do, and I've almost done it, is she suggested that I change my name on Facebook to my real name, which is Louise Keoghan. She then said to leave up the current image I have, which is of Mother Sekhmet as well. That's my current profile picture. And she said, once people will get to associate your name, your new name, and forget about Louisa Lavelle, the next thing you need to do is to have a photograph of yourself. So that's my next job over the next few days. Interesting, I did a card reading yesterday with a goddesses deck. I said, oh, which goddess has got guidance for me? And guess who showed up yesterday? Mother Sekhmet. It's like as if she's like keeping tabs on me in the background saying, I haven't forgotten our little arrangement about what you asked me to help you do, and you've done a lot of it. But also, she was one of the mothers that prompted me to actually want to interview Robbie McKenzie previously. And what had happened is Charlene Armitage had interviewed you. And I remember she asked some brilliant questions.
The week before or something, yeah? Yeah,
Sorry?
it was like the week before. It was like the week before.
Yeah.
And it was like the inspiration for you. And like you say, Mother Sekhmet, or it's sometimes seen as Kali or Shakti, the Shakti force, the feminine energy of it's going to happen. It's like that active part of the universe pushing you into your best self. You know, pushing you into that force of energy, Mother Sekhmet.
I needed her to do that. Go on, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can do it.
Yeah,
Stop talking yourself out of the fact, because you can. And I remember, Charlotte, she did a brilliant interview with you. It was absolutely fantastic. And I remember thinking about all the great questions she'd asked. And I sat outside in my garden afterwards thinking, you know, I think I could do that. I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could ask questions to people. And then this message pops up. Well, the only person that's saying you can't is you. And then after that, that's when I felt so kind of like fired up about it, that prompted me to then message you, to then interview you.
Yeah.
So,
and it was a high powered. I mean, the computers kept crashing and everything. You know, there was a very high vibration energy that was around the interview when you interviewed me as well. You know, so like, you know, that's the Sekhmet, the Shakti energy. You know, as well. It's like sometimes when that's in that place, especially in the fledgling energy of it, before you find your feet of what you're doing, and that's what you're doing just now. So you just need to be kind to yourself. But everything that's here is about pushing you to that next level. You feeling more confident within yourself, and you believing in the visualizations that you're making here as well, so that all of that gets materialized, gets manifested. You know, it's like you're on that path, you're moving forward that way. You know, so it's really exciting. You know, so and this is just at the beginning of that. You know, and you're moving forward through it, because everything that's happened, sometimes when all of that powerful Shakti, Mother Sekhmet energy comes in, it is past. With myself, it was. I'm writing about this in my book, funny enough, just that I mentioned that to you. I know you've never heard me say that. But when there's a breakdown in life, when there's a breakdown in circumstances, when there's a breakdown in, you know, what your life has consisted of, it's like the phoenix from the flame. It all gets burned up, you know, and then it gets reborn again in a more confident and transformed way. And it's like you break out of that egg. So this is about
a woman being rebuilt into something better.
Exactly.
Something better. You leave behind what you don't need. You keep the stuff that's working well, and then you develop it, you improve upon it, and then you make yourself be the best version of yourself. And that's how you keep on moving forwards, and provided you're willing to do the work. I have to say, my experience of Mother Sekhmet is you do have to do the work. You have to be honest with yourself to get the best from her, the best experience. And she's very, very loyal. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for her.
There is no shortcut. You know, it's like all of these things that people use, all these different tools that people use that get you to a certain place of understanding and expanding of your consciousness. It's no substitute for the work. You have to work yourself through that. You have to, like you say, you know, and you're doing it. You're being braver and bolder every day as you're moving forward. You just need to keep opening your heart the way that you are.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have another question, Boggie? Can you hear me?
I've got another. You know, you're asking me about influences. I haven't mentioned Master Hilarion yet, and a really beautiful spiritual writer called Roberta Gosden, who has really, really influenced me. She's written this amazing book, A Safe Way to Heaven, the No Nonsense Guide, and it's a very, very high vibrational healing book, and it's very spiritual. I mean, it's great the way it's all put together. It just all flows. Like, part of it is autobiographical, where Roberta Gosden shares her journey, and then also as you read the channeled messages, they're mainly from Hilarion, but not always. It's like as if you're getting a healing. It's so clever the way the sentences are constructed. It's all very deliberately phrased to give healing. And it reminded me of your second channeled book, Robbie. I had a very similar experience, Metatron, the healing book. And I would compare them as being very, very similar in terms of the benefits which the reader can get. And obviously, if you go back and you read it again, you can top up on your healing. And she's been a very profound influence on my life, and I'm very, very grateful to her. She puts in an amazing amount of positive, loving energy to help people, and it's basically her book. It's like an ascension guide, telling you how to cope, and she gives you some amazing tips. One of them at the moment I'm working on is how to manifest a new car. But there's something there for everyone if you're just starting out, and all the terminology is explained so simply. There's very little there that would phase you. There's some bits I need to read again to get my head around them fully, but I'm happy with that, because that's my point where I am now. I don't understand everything. I've got to go back and probably go back again. And I find sometimes, even with books I read a few years ago, I get different interpretations from them now than what I did when I first read them.
Yes,
but
exactly.
And funny enough, Roberta has been a guest, hasn't she, Robbie?
Yeah.
She's
Robbie was on a few weeks ago. Yeah. And
Robbie too.
Yeah, Robbie too. That's what she's on. And the Way of Conscious Mindfulness, she's Robbie too. Yeah.
Robbie too. She was on, and she's
doing really well. She's doing really well. She's coming on leaps and bounds, and she's writing her second book as well. You know, and she's moving forward with the masters, and she's opening up in her understanding, and all of the people that come to her that are inspired by her. It's like it's all paying it forward. It's like everything that's happening just now, it's all being paid forward. You know, and all of these different people that are opening up to it are opening up to the different parts. It's like 2017 has been an explosion of light worker energies that are ready to just come out of the shadows, you know, or come out of hiding, you know, or come away from the pseudonym. Step away from the pseudonym.
Absolutely. This year, out of all years, I've noticed that my friendships, in terms of Facebook friendships, have become more and more aligned with people that are very much in tune with the ascension process and wanting to progress, and very, very supportive, very, very kind, very loving, which is great, isn't it? That we all learn from each other, all working with the same end goal, which is we've come here to do a job, which is to help people ascend and to support them in whatever way we can. and to value and respect each other as we're all equals. We're doing different things, but we're nonetheless all equals in the eyes of our Creator, and to be respectful. And I love it. I really do. I'm just like a spiritual sponge. When I read something, I want to know more, and then I want to learn more about this, and I want to know that. And I sometimes think, oh, why is it taking me this long? You know, why didn't I know all of this like 20 years ago? Why am I waiting to now? And obviously, I wasn't ready. I probably wouldn't have done anything with the information, even if you'd have given me the books for free. I'd have just said, okay, not done anything. But now being very, very thirsty for that kind of knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all about timing. It's about the timing of everything being right, because you can't make a flower. You know, only God can do that. All you can do is water it. All you can do is give it sunlight. You know, all you can do is nurture it, you know, and then it's the divine that says when it flowers, you know, and you weren't ready for that before. No. But that's what this year is all about. That's what next year is all about. It's about the next stage of that expansion, and what has been there, or what's been ready to be there, or what's been written, or what's been channeled, or what's been laid down ready. The timing of it is coming to fruition. It's like my new book should be out just in time for the 7-year anniversary of the Clarion Call coming out. And the Clarion Call, the healing book, Galactic Council book 1 and 2, it's a cycle. It's a 7-year point from the beginning of the Clarion Call to the next stage of that point of ascension for helping people. And everything has its cycle, everything has its beginning, everything has its build up, and everything has its flowering, you know. So this is a point of mankind flowering, you know. It's all these concepts. Like we were talking about that before, Boggie, you know, like what if we'd been talking about the Merkaba 10 years ago, you know. It's like people just would, unless you were in a mystery school, you know, unless you were, you know, unless you were like had to get the right handshake, you know, to the right doorman and got into the right place.
You don't know how close to the truth you are. You know, I've said this before, that, you know, I was taught stuff. The Chinese men means inside the door, and there's a lot of stuff we talk about that even 10 years ago was really men. I would be frowned upon. That's if I'm lucky. I'd be frowned upon about talking about the things that we talk about now. And like you said about, oh, you wish you learnt this 10, 20 years ago, Louise. But the point, the flowering of civilization is that you learning it too early then would be that everybody else wasn't ready for it, and not that it would have been wasted, but it wasn't. The whole point that is coming now, because it means that because the whole point for all of us is that you know, people like us that are here to help others. The whole point that me and Robbie very much talk about is, there's this old mindset that spiritual people, healers, should be doing it for nothing. They should be, you know, they should just have to do it. And that's not true. It's not the universal way. You know, you're meant, if you're doing what is your calling, you're meant to thrive because of it. You know, not living in, you know, $1 billion house, but you're not meant to struggle. You're meant to thrive. You're meant to do well. So the whole point is that the timing of you picking up this information is the timing of everybody else being ready to learn that information. So once you've, you know, got it fully in your grasp and you fully understand it, there will be other people coming through ready to learn that. And so that is all about divine timing, if you want to use that terminology.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've got a bit of a story there, actually. Over the last couple of months, people that I would regard as being very advanced spiritually, even people at Channel, messaging me for my advice. And I was really, really quite taken back by that, because I was thinking, well, why are you asking me? You're far more advanced, but yet they would come back and say, we would like your opinion. And I felt very very grateful that, you know, for the hours I've put in with my meditating and clearing, that I've made a little bit of progress in comparison to the first part of the year. But I got a nice story. You mentioned flowers, didn't you, Robbie, a short while ago? That only a week ago, I volunteered. There were over 500 of us to assist Mother Mary. And what the request was to offer healing to North and South Korea, Japan and China. And it was a 4-hour list. We emailed the invocations, and it worked out at about over 200 pages of A4. So there was a lot to get through in 4 hours. There was no time for breaks, just carrying on. And at the end of it, I finished all the invocations and I only had 2 minutes to spare. And I was getting quite anxious because I couldn't work out from scrolling down how much more I got to go. And I finished literally 2 minutes to spare and then catch my breath thinking, what? Because if you hadn't finished them, you could ask Master Germain, who I absolutely love very, very dearly. I'm currently working with him at the moment to finish on your behalf, but thankfully I didn't need to do that. And as I closed my eyes, I saw this tiny little rosebud, and it just expanded out into this huge red rose. And it was just there enough. It was just there, just enough to say, right, okay, that's been acknowledged. And then it went. But for the time it was there, it was beautiful. And what fascinated me was the fact it started off so small and then just like grew within seconds to this beautiful, beautiful red rose. And it was very, very visual as well. And I could see all the detail within the rose. And so that was a really, really lovely experience. But at the moment, what I'm currently doing is something called the 7 Sacred Weeks. And I'm a very different person just from having started the 7 Sacred Weeks. I don't know whether either of you have worked with them before, but it started basically at the end of November and it carries on until January. And basically, I mentioned Master Germain. I work with Master Germain and also Jesus and the Christ consciousness. And there's a different cosmic being to work with every day. And I knew some of the cosmic beings. I mean, Halarian was on there as well. But there were so many that I didn't know, and it's really upped my game quite considerably in such a short space of time. I'll give you an example that I'd never heard of God and Goddess Maru. I'd never heard of God and Goddess of the Swiss Alps. And I didn't even occur to me that if you want to connect with God and Goddess of the Swiss Alps, then listen to the sound of music. They love that. That's a way to connect with them. It's like, oh, really? Yeah, that sounds so obvious. And if you want to really, really connect with many, many angels all at once, listen to Handel's Messiah. So it's been a really, really beautiful journey, and I don't want it to end. And I'm like, oh, I'm looking at my list, and I don't want it to end because I know it's going to come to an end. And it's been such a journey learning about the different keynotes. If you want to connect to this master, and if you want to connect to this God and Goddess and God and Goddess Maru, and being able to study with them at their therapy retreats at night. And basically all these invocations that I want. And I'm like, I want all of you. I want all of your names. And I want to go to your place. I want to go to your place. I want to go to your place. And go to your place. I want to remember everything. That's the kind of point where I am now. But it's just such a beautiful, blessed journey working with them and learning from them. And one of the things that they've made me realize is that they have this immense amount of power, don't they? But we can empower them even more. And one of the things I struggled with was one of the invocations we say each day is I command and demand. And it's taken me a month to actually stop apologizing because I felt so uncomfortable saying I command and demand that mighty beings like Master Germain and Jesus must do what I ask them to do. I said, I'm sorry, I don't mean it like that. And of course, that's what they want us to do, is to empower us. But because our associations of power are largely negative, and that people in authority have exploited their power and used it to look after themselves, it's like as if I'm learning that I have power and I need to activate this power, and I can use this power to help these really mighty beings because they've only got so much power. We as humans, under divine cosmic law, have to ask them to give permission for them to come and work with us.
Just until you're empowered into the understanding that you are them. That's it. It's only that switch between, like, all of these gods and goddesses. It's all about their realization of their divine oneness. So it's this. They're bringing you into your empowerment because you are the divine. So the kingdom of God is within you. So all of these names, all of these attributes, all of these personalities, all of these different separations are all you. So that's just them empowering you, and that's you being taken away from your conditioning and being given that love because you are Christ. You are the Buddha.
Absolutely.
You are Krishna. You are the divine. That center place is just like you said on one of these Facebook pages. It's all a matter of semantics. Yeah. It's just a matter of recognizing that all of these are just mirrors of you. That's all that Maru is. That's all that Jesus is. That's all that Buddha is. That is you. And the more that you're working with this, the more that you're opening up to this, the more you're realizing it's actually Goddess Louise that's going to be the contribution in Wales. It's going to be it's going to be Goddess Louise that's going to empower other people into their divine center, because that's where you're at now. And that's that center part that's actually just exploding within you now. And this is that flowering. This is that love. This is that point. This is that epiphany. This is that realization. And that is that flowering of truth. And that's what the flower of life really is. As you open your Merkaba, as you open up to your center being, it takes away from the name. It takes away from the importance of giving away your power to say, these amazing divine beings, wait a minute, they're telling me that I'm this amazing divine being, you know? So that's you, and you being ready for that flowering. So, you know, that's what's upon you now.
And you mentioned a very good point, actually. Sorry, I was just going to mention about conditioning. That was something, again, since working with these beautiful beings, have made me realize just how conditioned I have been from so many different ways, and in fact some lifetimes as well. And there's so much conditioning that I still need to acknowledge is conditioned behavior, and to remove it, to distance myself from it, because it's not real, it's not true, it's just learnt behavior that that I've acquired over the years and past lives as well. And it's very, very beautiful to be able to actually distinguish between what is conditioned and your kind of feeling about something, and say, no, actually, you know, it mentioned about the power, that I feel as if they're teaching that we have been conditioned, and our life experiences that power is often negative. But now the new experience in the Aquarius age of Aquarius is that power is actually love.
Love is everything. Love is
always the right answer.
Exactly. Yeah, love is everything. That's your center.
Yes.
You know, that is your center. That's who you are. That's who we all are. This is all just one being have a conversation. Sorry, Boggie, I beg your pardon.
No. All I'm doing is agreeing that this is why, you know, when I'm doing this, it's like in the old charades, you're spot on, you're right on, but that's what, there's so many things there, is they're asking, as Robbie said it, I say in a slightly different way, is that you are, you Louise, but also you out there, you are your own God, you are your own goddess, you are your own creator. The FBI know this, the CIA know this. There's certain experiments they've done. If you've ever watched the movie Thrive, you will see that the FBI did experiments with, they got hundreds of people to meditate in a city, focusing on peace and love, going back to the love, and they reduced the crime rate by 25% in that city. And when they did it with 7,000 people, they reduced the terrorist rate within those 3 days of them doing it with 7,000 people. They reduced the terrorist rate by 70%. You are the creator.
They said at the time when they did it, I'm putting this in the book as well, because I researched when it happened as well. The police chief at the time, Boggie, said the only way that you could do this is if it was under 20 inches of snow, and it was right in the summer. It was right in the center of the summer when it was hotter and hotter, and usually the rape, aggravated assaults, and burglaries go up exponentially in this time period, and it was reduced by 23%. And their aim was 20%. It was 23%. And it's documented. So it's not like as if this is something that can happen. So when you were helping with North and South Korea, when you were giving your thought power, when you were giving your heart love, when you were opening your energy field to that place of love, of peace, of transformation, it was having an effect. It's not just a woo-woo nonsense. It's not just, just hope for the best, because that's what it's been reduced to. That's what they want us to believe. They want us to believe that, well, what's the point? What, you just think about something and then it happens? That's a lot of nonsense. You know what I mean? Well, actually, when you understand the power of yourself, connected with your divine center, connected with love, connected with the potency of your thoughts, you are the creator. You do affect reality, you know, and you connected with on your highest vibration, you affect thousands of people, but you connected with another divine being, connected, that multiplies the effect. You connected with another divine being, multiplies the effect. So we only need a certain amount for a critical mass. We only need a certain amount of people that everybody actually feels confident. That's why when we see one person that's a leader, when you see one person that's, you know, it works on the dark side and the light side, but the dark side breaks down. The dark side has to use violence and fear and negativity and blame and control, and I'll hold you in like that. And that only works while it's being believed. Right, but the positive reinforces itself. The positive reinforces itself. So you get one divine light and another divine light. That's what it's saying in the Clarion Call. You know, Jesus, Buddha, and Krishna. Right, that's only three people. Right, now we see these as divine people, but everybody is a divine person. But three people have affected the majority of the world, as far as their heritage and their religion and their understanding of spirituality. That's only three people. We've got 7.5 billion people. You know, imagine what we can do when we just get a small percentage of that are actually concentrating on their divine core. And that was only a small amount of people that were, and it was in Washington. It was Washington that they did it. I think it was 96, 92, 96. I've got all the statistics because I'm writing it in my book. Because it's really important. It's really important to understand that that's a real thing and it's measurable. It's not woo-woo. It's not nonsense. It's something that is documented fact. You know. Yeah.
I've seen it in the police force. I've seen it in police forces where they did their meditations prior to going out on their shifts, that they were less stressed. And also children, as opposed to putting them in detention, get them to do group meditations. And I know it's not very well accepted in schools at the moment, but there's certainly a big gap there in terms of how we help children and we help them concentrate and get them away from their gadgets and help them be still.
That's the future of the world, though, because it's now that, like, they're trying to close down the internet a little bit so that we don't have so much, so that we don't have access to this, because the last 10 years, that's why everything's flowering, because it's different stages of ascension. The technological ascension is happening at the same time as the spiritual ascension, is the same time as the mental ascension, because there's different points of ascension. And mental ascension is recognizing that we're programmable. There's recognizing that we've already been programmed. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter you have a certain familial background, you have a certain country, you have a certain government, you have a certain set of understandings of your social background. So you've already got that. That's whether it's tribal or whether it's familial or whether it's, you know, inherited. It's programming. It's what you believe who you are. And mental ascension is deprogramming what doesn't work and reprogramming what does. Simple. Ascension is very simple. It is love, but it's just about being mindful of it. Being mindful of the different things that make us tick, that make us human, that make us work, you know? And that's what we're going through just now, you know? And that's what, and all these light workers going, bing, wait a minute, hold on. Wait. Well, I'm a sponge now, that's it. I'm going to read that one, I'm going to read this one. But then you will come to your own understanding of it within your center. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's happening just now with you. And it's as simple as that. Love is always the answer. Love. And the form that it takes is the form of your highest excitement of it, whether it's Mother Sekhmet, whether it's Krishna, whether it's Jesus. No matter what form that divinity comes in, is the form that will light you up. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't even have to be a religious figure. It can be John Lennon, you know what I mean? It can be Lady Gaga. It can be ice skating. It can be whatever it is, you know, it can be the thing that lights you up. And that's personal to you. You know, it's about the bees, Louise. You know what I mean? It's about the healing centre in Wales. You know, it's about you expressing yourself. Well, what actually gets the twinkle in my eye? Do you know what I mean?
Really, what I'm really looking forward to is the star beings, and their technology is so advanced that we reach that point when they start to work with us. I just think that will be a real game changer for all of us.
Well, they already are, though, but it's just about what we're ready for. If you think about what happened 20 years ago and what's happening now, in the decade in between, in the centre point between 20 years ago and 10 years ago, you know, 20 years ago, we were in the dark ages. 10 years ago, suddenly the iPhone is introduced. And 10 years later, you know, everybody's looking at a screen. That's the society now. Everybody's like, all right, how you doing? Bumping into things because you're looking at your phone, but you're not looking at your phone. You're looking at people. You're looking at your connection. You're communicating. You're learning. There's been more learning that's happened in the last 10 years, even though it's been fragmented. There are more people that are able to chase what their passion is, because it's all compartmentalized now. If your passion is BMXing, you can connect with all the BMXers. Do you know what I mean? If it's beekeeping, you can connect with all the beekeepers. You know, that's how education should be, because we only really reading, writing, arithmetic. I'm not saying that's not important, but your passion is more important, because you will learn with your passion. You will learn with your enthusiasm. You will learn what you really want to do and what you will set the world on fire with through chasing what you're passionate about. And now you can find out about that. Now there is an outlet for that. No matter what you like doing, do you know what I mean? No matter what your passion is or how.
There'll always be somebody somewhere that will identify with what you're passionate about.
Exactly, and it's that communication. It's that connection. You know, it's that. You know, it's the Mother Sekhmet group. You know,
it's
the beekeepers group.
It's the mug.
Yeah, well, there you go. You know. Exactly.
And,
yeah, that's
and
what you're doing.
That's something me and Louise has already said. I know with me and Rob, it's the same thing as well. Is that like people. There'll always be negativity. There'll always be people who will try to make things negative. There'll always be people who say, for example, technology. Oh, it's bad. And once upon a time, rock and roll was bad. Once upon a time, something else was bad. There'll always be touchy symbol. There'll always be that way. There'll always be yin and yang. There'll always be light and dark. But the point is that tech for us three especially, is that it's connected us to so many different people in the world. I said myself that I have more students nowadays in America, Canada, Australia, few in Thailand. I have more all around the world because of the internet, because of YouTube, because of the connections I can make, and I know Robbie has, and I know you have, and that's so technology is needed. Technology is a wonder. Obviously, you don't want to go too far the other way, but it's all about balance. It's all about finding your own personal balance. Always, the other thing as well of the age of the Aquarius, the golden race energy is the golden age, the golden race is the fact that in the past there was this thing about the pyramid energy, in the essence of there was a one leader and everybody else followed. But now and you've already experienced this, Louise, because you already mentioned it, that you had people that you considered your peers, or you considered people of a higher level coming to you for advice on that certain thing, on that certain subject. And that's what the future is that we're all Sifus. People who know me will hear me say this all the time, but there's so much. What I mean by it is we are all each other's Sifus. Everything and everyone is your Sifu, your muse, your guide. And we're all here. We're all each other's gods, as well as being gods ourselves, creators ourselves. We're here to help create each other's missions, help each other on their own personal journeys and their own adventures, as well as. And it's all about that balance. It's all about that sharing that energy, sharing the love. all about.
And the more that you share that love, the more that what you want from the, if you do it unconditionally, what you want from the connection will be brought to you anyway through synchronicities. The more that you just open and give, the more you will get. It's just the law of the universe. The more that you let that flow through you. So again, it comes back to using your Merkaba. It comes back to using your heart properly. It comes back to recognizing that all of these control systems, all of these protocols that have been put into place from fear, they only work for the ones that have put them in place. Whereas the divine protocols, Merkaba, when you open your heart, when you open to who you really are, everything, it's fractal. It spins off your Merkaba to everybody else's Merkaba. So as you uplift everybody else, as they get uplifted within your presence, within your enthusiasm, within your love field, their Merkaba opens naturally. Because in your Merkaba, it's important to go through these protocols yourself, and that is, I always encourage that. But the more that you shine your love, the more people spontaneously open their Merkabas. And that's when people have that feeling of divine love. And why am I filled with such immense love around this person? Because they've got their Merkaba open. And maybe that only happens for that amount of time that they're in your aura, or they're in your presence, or they're connecting your material. But it happens, and it happens spontaneously. And the more that happens, the more that we open that up, the more it proliferates, the more that it transforms, the more that it changes the world. And that we're at that critical point just now. We're at that changing part just now. We're at that transformational part just now. That's why all the darkness is coming out just now. That's why all of these these old things that we thought had been defeated 70, 80 years ago, all of these ideologies that we thought were done and dusted, they're coming up because the darkness is always before the dawn. The opening of any consciousness always ebbs and flows before it's ready to burst open. That's what when you're talking about the mystery schools, you were talking about, things weren't ready to open yet. That's why there were mystery schools. They had to be mystery schools because these things had to be in private, because people weren't ready for them. They weren't fully ready to feel that love. They weren't fully ready to feel that support by the rest of humanity. You're saying about the Jedi. You always talk about the Jedi, Boggie, like in ancient Egypt, and those stories. This is part of what it's funny. I'm writing that part in the book just now, actually, because you keep going on about it. Yeah, about the Jedi in Egypt. It was the people that protected the Pharaoh. But it was a mystery school. It was understanding how to use your Kundalini, how to open up your crown chakra, how to actually that's what the sword of light is as well. It's breaking down all of the energy. It's the column of light that's through you, and when that opens up, all of your higher power opens up, your Siddhi powers, whatever you want to call them, your Jedi powers, and these films are coming out in perfect timing for people to go, well, that is fun and exciting about that, but what does that really mean on that deeper level? That's actually going into the whole of humanity. What are we actually capable of? What can we actually do? And that's getting opened up just now for a reason. By the way, did you watch Star Wars? Yeah.
Oh, yes, I've seen it. And did you, this is spoilers. Anybody's watching Star Wars, spoilers. But did you see, the, what was her name? Rose?
Yeah.
Funny enough, that's my stepmom's name. But Rose, her necklace is half a Tai Chi symbol. Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, and because her sister, who dies, she had the other half, and they had two Tai Chi symbols. And then on the floor, you see with Luke, the floor of the ancient symbol for the grey code, because they didn't quite talk about it, but the ancient symbol, the grey code, is black and white, and it's the light and the dark side that were once one. They were the Tai Chi symbol. They were balanced. And what happened within the story of Star Wars, and De-Jedi, the Egyptian word, means of the pillar of light. So the lightsaber is a Jedi. It's, you know, it's all metaphorical.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's metaphorical, but it's metaphysical as well. It's not just metaphorical; it's metaphysical. It's actual, but it has to be experienced in meditation for you to have the benefit of its manifestation. So it is metaphorical, but it's metaphysical as well, and that has to be opened up in meditation. And that's another part about what Star Wars was bringing you. You know, the bit at the end. And he's bilocating to overcome, and that's part of what's been brought in just now because of the situation, because of the global situation, because of how the illusion seems to be very volatile just now. The more light workers, the more love workers, the more Jedi that open up in their understanding of what they can do from afar. What they can do in sitting in their Merkabas to affect the world and the outcome and the leaders and everything that's happening just now that's very important. It's very important for that seed to be planted just now, for people to see that, for people to be empowered by that, you know.
Yeah, and you go to the point. And you go to the point with the Merkabas very quickly. You know, the whole point of the Merkaba. If you study Tibet Buddhism. The Tibetan Buddhists, they're especially somebody you can look up, David Wilcox, and look up Tibet Buddhism and rainbow bodies or the rainbow body ascension. The Merkaba is a big, not only in Judaism, even in Christianity. The Star of David is a Merkaba. You actually read the Bible. Part of my training was I was told to read the Quran, the Bible, all these different books. And when you read the Old Testament, it talks about that the Saint David was the only saint to transcend while still alive. He ascended, and he was picked up by a Merkaba, a chariot. They described the Merkaba, and the Merkaba. We had one of our other guests, Shinshuri, her information about the chakras, and you have the Merkaba, and you have in the 6-pointed star, and she had the 6 colors which made up the rainbow body of transformation. Now, again, going on about proof, you have in Tibet, I think it's something like, I'm pretty sure it's over 1,500. It may be even a lot more. They've got 1,500 cases, 1,500 documented cases of Buddhists especially, but of people ascending in turning into light. They ascended into their rainbow body. They've got the evidence. They've got documented evidence of it, and in later cases, in the last 20 years, they've actually got photographic evidence of some of this as well. So, you know, there is no ancient information. You are immortal. You know, you are a god or a goddess. You know, you are immortal. You live, you die. You live, you die. You get reborn over and over again. Going to Christianity. Originally in Christianity, reincarnation was the standard part of it. It was taken out around about the 1400s, and so were other things taken out of the Bible in the 1400s. And the other religions, they all have the same thing. It's one of those things. If you realised alone, we live in fear of death and of this and being killed or terrorism and that. If you realise you're immortal, if you realise, well, if I die, I'll pop up again, whether on this planet or another planet.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's what we're realising. That's what we're coming to, exactly.
And that's
part of what ascension is, and the biggest part of that is the dropping of the fear. The biggest part of that is the recognition that, like you said, exactly. But the conditioning is just there while we allow it to be there, while we realize that it even is there. When that's part of what the Matrix was all about. It's like coming out of the Matrix conditioning and recognizing, well, wait a minute, you know, it's like, what is real? What is real? You know, it's like, because we have these traditions, you know, it's discerning the truth from the tradition. You know, at an early age, where we teach kids that there's this guy that comes down the chimney, and that's, you know, that flies with these flying reindeers and everything, and then that's like a rite of passage. But what is the rite of passage? The rite of passage is you weren't being straight with me. Do you know what I mean? And is that the rite of passage? Is that part of the conditioning of children? Part of what it is we do? And part of me is like, well, I love that. I love the fact that I found out that it was a rite of passage and everything. But what does that do psychologically for you? You know, it's like part of us is getting out of that and recognizing, well, there are other rites of passage that are here that are about divine beings, that are about the truth of that, the truth of the metaphor, the truth of because Santa Claus, that's a metaphor for the Kundalini as well. It's a metaphor for the spine. The Klaus is all of these are esoteric metaphors that have been wound into our life in different ways. You know, and each different part is a new rite of passage that we're opening up to, you know. Tension just now, you know, and we're ready for this, to come out of the conditioning of the negative and to be empowered, you know. Very powerful.
So, Louise, is there anything else that you wanted to also add, or, you know, to bring us
to say thank you? Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed myself. And so thank you both. Thank you all.
Been an absolute
your insights. Always a joy.
An absolute pleasure. I'm sorry I had to go away for a wee while, but yeah.
You came back at the right time, didn't you?
I'll watch it back, everything that happened, but you know, everything happens in perfect timing. So, but yeah, you're doing great work. An absolute pleasure having you on, and you know, it's now you've come out. You've come out. You're joining the party now, so fantastic, you know.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and as I said to you off screen, you know, this year coming up, this year we're ending is Rooster, and Rooster's very matter of fact. Rooster is, if you say something, bosh, you get it. You know, Rooster. You know, Rooster is not very good at being politically correct. It will just give you what you want. If you say you want something, and yeah, exactly. And the whole point is that now we're going from Rooster into Dog. In the Chinese astrology, and Dog is all about family, so it's all about connection, it's all about building your clan, finding your clan. And dogs are especially, like, you know, the working dogs, the sheep dogs and whatnot, they're hard workers. It's about the hard work. It's you know, it's the ground force. It's getting things done, setting things up, and that's what this year is all about. This year coming up will all be about is, you know, finding your truth, getting your truth out there, however you get it out there, sharing it out. And, you know, the old field of dreams, if you build it, they will come. And that's what it's all about. You know, it's about building your dreams, building your beliefs, and also a real key, you've mentioned it before, about being that sponge. The whole point, the difference between the past and now, the difference between, you know, coming into the age of Aquarius, is you never stop learning. You're always learning. There's always more to learn. You know, you are infinite. You know, we have this little flesh body, but you yourself are infinite. And the fact is, you can always learn more. You can always advance more. And, you know, it is, as you've already seen, and I guarantee it's only going to happen more. You'll get people that you would feel might, you know, oh, these are, you know, mighty people, but they'll come to you for certain information. And that was the whole point of with Merlin and the dragons. And that's the other thing I wanted to say. You know, you're like a pharmacist. You're a spiritual channeler or pharmacist. Is that all these information, all these different energies you learn when you get to an individual, you'll have all this range of energies to choose from. So you go, oh, I need this one today, I need this, this, and this. You know, I'm a pharmacist or a chef. You know, in the Chinese, because the barefoot doctors were also considered almost like chefs. And they actually had chefs that would create medicine from food and heal people. But the point is that you have all these different skills. And once upon a time, that was, we were told, oh, jack of all trades and a master of none. Well, in the Eastern philosophies, because you never stop learning, you always build up more and more energy, more and more skill. So therefore, having all these different skills makes you a master. You're a master of being able to balance the Tao, the way. To, you know, as you...
The mastery isn't about learning the intricacies of everything in the whole world, because there's not enough time for that. The mastery is over the self. The mastery is over the humility to understand that you are always an eternal student. The mastery is over having the humility to recognize that with an open heart and recognizing you know nothing, you shall be shown everything. That's the mastery. It's not about knowing everything about everything. You know, we can't all be Stephen Fry. But even Stephen Fry is questing and always wanting more and more information, you know, because that's what he loves doing. So he's a master of being a master of information. You know, the mastery is about the attitude. The mastery is about the heart. The mastery is about the love. That's what being a master is. And you, when you center yourself in that, every child that is born, we just convince them they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, just like you know, the darkness, the fear, the anger, the aggression. Most of this is learnt.
Yes,
it's not natural for us. You know, fear is learnt, aggression is learnt, prejudices are actually learnt. When you look back in history, and or just see two toddlers, you know, or a group of toddlers. They don't care what colour they are. They don't care, you know, if one family's really rich or really poor. It's adults that make those decisions.
How you're socialized.
Yeah. And then as we grow up, as Confucius said, show me a child of 9 and I will show you an adult, in the reference of is that you get up to a certain point, and the apart from obviously great misfortunes or great fortunes happening, you know, that a child of a certain age is, there are certain things already set in play that the great wiles in Taoism, children are the wisdom, especially toddlers. You know, the closer they are to birth, the closer they are connected to this universal source. So they are the great Sifus. And of course, as they grow up, we as adults affect them, and they are affected by us because they look up to us as these great learners and great teachers. But the ego gets in the way, or this or that gets in the way, and they slowly get disconnected. So the most interesting thing in Taoism, as Daoist philosophy, is first thing you do is go back to being like a child, you know, learn to play, learn to, you know, give out that unconditional love like toddlers do, and play and have fun, and, you know, go and do different things and go and adapt, and, you know, go and break out your own comfort zone. You know, allow yourself to explore. That's the whole point. It's the darkness and the controlled and the adult that wants us all restricted and fear this, fear that, fear terrorism, fear this, fear, and, you know, be hooked on TV, where, you know, go back to your imagination, go back to unconditional love, go back to play.
We go back to the beginning, keep it simple, sister.
Right. Indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
exactly. That comes right to the beginning. Yeah, that's your down. Yeah, you're giving a big kiss to the world. Yeah, keep it simple, sister. Fantastic. Yeah. So this is the kiss show. Dressed up with the white and black makeup and got her guitar out.
I think I've worn enough makeup in my time. I used to be an actor before anybody comments. I used to do acting, so I used to wear lots of makeup, and I've dressed up as a madman or two in my time in a few shows I've been into. But yeah, it's all about love. It's all about love. It's all about it's all about love. And go back to the beginning, sister. Indeed. Okay, right. So I think, do we want to wrap up? Are we done? Is there anything?
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great show. What I was able to participate in. So I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for the invite.
A great end of your show. Fantastic.
Thank you very much, Robbie Mackenzie. Look forward to reading your book when it comes out about Twin Flames. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Are you writing a new book, Robbie? Surely not. Not another new book. We must do a show about that.
Oh, we will.
Hi, Mickey. Oh, yeah. Oh, we will. We did it on your last book. We must do it in your next one. So, firstly, I'd just like to say thank you so much, Robbie. It's amazing. I love how things go. I mean, since your show, when it was your show, and then the love, you loved it so much, you come back as a guest, so a co-host, and that's what I've loved, and it's such great to have you on the show. Unfortunately, Chris was quite tired, so he had to go. But thank you when Chris was here. And I'd like to say, Louise, I mean, it's been a great show. I'll be looking forward to your book.
Thank you very much.
And
thank you.
I'll be definitely connecting with you in the future, and possibly bring you back on the show in the future if you're interested. So
I would.
It'll be good indeed. So for the audience, this is the last weekly show. Next year there will be shows, but there will be more on a bit of a bitch botch method. If you are on YouTube and you've subscribed to my channel, message you when the next show is. If you are on Facebook and you go to the Way of Conscious Mindfulness fan page, I'll also message when the next shows are. But they will exist. It's just that from the 11th onwards, I am going back to teaching again. I'm going to set up a class in Brighton, and that's what I will be doing on a Thursday. But there will still be shows. They will probably be fortnightly, maybe weekly, but definitely fortnightly. And we'll go from there. But the information will be there, and we can go from there. So thank you, Robbie, as always. Thank you very much, Louise. It's been a great show. Enjoyed it immensely. So yeah, I think that's about it. So I hope you guys had a great Christmas from all of us. New Year from all of us. See you next year at some point. So guys, don't forget, we close off, but we can still talk for a little bit. So for the audience, take care. Bye for now. Love, Chi and Shen from all of us, the Way of Conscious Mindfulness. Take care. Bye for now.